to dream about doing. I wasn't good at it necessarily, but I felt that I had enough creative people around me. So I was like, at least if I give it a shot and kept looking at it, I will get somewhere at some point. And so I really did start like that. But before those images of Martinique, I would say that my first, real, in my head, contact with the idea of being an artist is in QRC with a teacher called Jackie Hincks, who was my teacher. And I always credit him as being the person who got me into art. And he's, if anybody knows Jackie, he's very shit. He does stuff like that. And I said, no, but it's true because, I can literally remember, you lose memories over the years, of course, but I can literally remember the class where what we were drawing each other in the class. And I remember, my sketching, I kept on learning how to sketch through him because he encouraged a style of sketching or drawing. And if anybody ever looked at Jackie drawing, he's famous for being in a panya, being all over town, just drawing, amazing, like looking plein air. And, he's always been a big advocate of just looking and really just going for it. Not like, piddling around too much and making drawings like with a tight fist and a tight wrist. He believes in using the arm and the wrist freely and trying to capture something quickly, So I kind of got into that. I was not a natural draftsman, and I still am not a natural draftsman. I found ways to work around it. And maybe at the core, what is interesting about that story is that even though I'm not a natural draftsman, when we were drawing in class, my drawings were kind of rough and sketchy like that. He said, afterwards he said, there's something in these drawings, there's like a spirit in these drawings, there's energy in these drawings. I was like, really? And I was 14, and I never got, like that impression that my teacher saying that to me and everybody knows Jack, he's kind of serious, if he says something, he's saying something. You're not gonna mix it up with like pecan and shit talk, And I literally took that around with it, From that day, I remember just getting a little more stress about my room. I kept practicing at it. I think I did good at the CXC. But then after I left school, after form, I didn't even do sixth form because I have this thing. Once I've been in an institution for like a certain amount of years, everybody like, "What just do your sixth form?" I'm like, no, take a little break and I'll come back. I'm always taking a break. Of course, a break to that time I started surfing and traveling a bit with my surfing, but I always kept doing some art. I never left art from that time, like for any long period. Really, I haven't. When I think about it, even when I was traveling, I would have a little book with some watercolors, some pencil, trying something. I had no training at that point except whatever I got in QRC. And I remember there was a point I traveled a bit and I came back. I grew up in Montreal without electricity, very, very, humble space, big ideas, because my dad is a writer and plenty of interesting people around. But in terms of what the place was, it was very humble, very, I guess afterwards I realized when you compare what that life is to what the normal life is like, whoa, that was kind of radical, But I think that experience also gave me something that I think I still have today, It's a kind of a sense that I can move between spaces in a place, and it's an ability that it is, I think, it hasn't blessed me with, I would have to say, because I feel like when we moved into town, and I started to go to QRC, I used to travel from Montreal to QRC for many years until we moved into town, and yeah, the soundtrack of my life. When I came into town, my dad at that point, who had been really working, who had been writing, and my mom was kind of minding us as a librarian working in Santa Grande. He at that point had to really pull up his stuff and say, well, how to get a job now, So he started to look at UB, and he got like a pretty proper position at UB, and all of a sudden I became a proper middle class Protestant citizen citizen, you know? Like we went out a pretty decent big house up in the back of Fonzamans, and you know, it was not like whoa like that, but it was, when I think about it, there were a lot of big ships, you know? And we just took them very normally, and then, you know, very much a lot of my friends now, you know, have come out of the experience of living in Brazil, you know. There's so many people I see here that I know from a long time, you know, through different eras, you know. I'm one of those people who've seen many eras in Port of Spain, from party early 80s to now to, you know, I'm still fetting. Or I'm still present, should I say. But, you know, the thing, one of the times of my work that I like to think back to, and I want to add a few images at some point to show people what my work looked like. At that period, before I went to art school, and I was just kind of searching for yourself, you know, you're searching for, like, you know, can you do this, you know, because I mean, being an artist is really tough, and you guys all know that, you know, whether you come from it from, you know, as a hobby, whether you had ideas that you were going to take seriously at some point, and then, you know, people around you say, well, how are you going to pull that off? You know, I mean, how are you going to do that? You know, that does something that things good. And you know, you are always in a battle, you know, to see how this can actually take place, how it can actually become a reality. And that happens even for the people who are, you know, now become artists. That would have happened at some point in their life, you know. And I remember, you know, thinking to myself, my idea of how I was going to become an artist was to sacrifice something. Like, I had to sacrifice something of what I would normally be doing to give to this, you know. So if I was partying, if I was lighting, part of that has to go towards me being immersed in art, and as hard and go the hard route, like do the hard thing, because the hard thing will teach you. And that's what I did. I started to go back up. My mother at that time was working as a nanny in the States, trying to build this house in Monturo. Not the same house where we grew up in, but by that time my dad had separated. And she stayed in Monturo and started building this place. She bought a piece of land. Very independent woman, did everything on her own, you know, very much alone, you know. She had this place that she was doing. It was just a shell. And I remember thinking, you know what, we had moved into town. I was out of QRC, moving around, surfing a little bit, traveling a little bit, but I was still on the art. I was thinking about how I'm going to, you know, this before I was 20. And I remember going up to that house, again going back into the darkness, because they had no current there, it was just a shell. And, you know, it had a lantern outside, and, you know, and I would spend time up there, and I would have my paper, I didn't have tons of material. I had a few things, a few canvases, I had paper, I had some watercolors, I was looking at oils, and I just remember staying there. And I would spend like just time up there by myself, you know, with a lamp. And I had these drawings of like lamp, you know, and like the dark night in this house. And then in the day I would paint and draw, make pastel drawings of like the surroundings, you know. And you know, it was such a special time, because you realize that you were making that sacrifice. You know, you were like you could be doing something else. You know, you're a young surfer, everybody, you know, you kind of is a kind of man around town now, a young guy, and here you are by yourself up in the bush, you know, with no lights, and you're trying to be an artist, you know. And so I really think that for me, you know, a lot of these that and the years subsequent to that formed me, you know, and I think I haven't really changed that ethos in terms of work, in terms of how serious I am about what I do, you know. So I remember, like, from there, I said I'm going to try to get into a school, you know. I'm a bit of a dreamer, you know, so I said I want to go to France, but my friends have money, you know. I'm going to art school in France. It's very expensive as well, you know. But I remember meeting, the French were very, but the French was still very present in Trinidad, and happening in those days there was a cultural attaché. I went to see him, and he said, you know, well, you know, France is a, you know, these art schools are great, of course, and of course I was thinking about that great French painting and the turn of the century, Matisse, and you know, all the great French painters, Cézanne, everybody, you know, those are the people, and still the people that I always have looked to in art, you know. So I thought that's the place to go to. I didn't really have that much information, but he told me about this school in Martinique. He said you will get an education that is, you know, French diploma if you would, so it'll be the same certificate that you get in France, but you'll be in the Caribbean. It's a new school. The school at that time was very young for an institution. And I will tell you that, I got into that school, very much by chance. There was somebody from the Ministry of Culture coming down for Jackie Hink's exhibition, actually, incidentally, at the Alliance process, which was on the Abercrombie Street, I think, at that time. And he said to me, the guy, the cultural attaché, you should go and see, her name is Dominique Brevillon. He said, go and see Dominique Brevillon when she comes down, and tell her about, your desire to go to the school. And I just had a little, this is before digital cameras, before we had it, I just had these little prints of my wood, things that I had been doing. A little stack like this in the same little package that you would have gotten in Long Circular Mall from Photo World, And they used to be got up for everybody, clearly. So the same little packet like that, I had that one, never forget. And I had that little packet and I went to the opening and I met Dominique and I said, I'm a painter here and I'm interested in coming to the school, can you take these images up and give it to them at the school, to the director of the school or whatever. And that's literally how, I just thought, I'd just do that and see what happens. And if it didn't happen, I would push it. And later on in summer, and when I think about it, we didn't have cell phones in those days, it was a kind of different time, A call came in and they got in touch with me and said, yes, they looked at this stuff and they were taking, and it was the perfect timing because that school was just trying to expand into the Caribbean a bit more. It's a French school, everybody's French speaking, all the classes are French, but they're in the Caribbean and they want to sort of reach into the Caribbean a little bit more. Here's this guy from Trinidad, English speaking, wanting to, they said, good. So I got in like that, and I remember when I got there, and I had all this thing where you didn't come in the proper way, so you may not be able to get a diploma, and I always somehow found somebody find me who, would support, and see your potential. I think it's really important for us to recognize potential in people and support it. That's an ongoing story, but I say because I realize that I've always had somebody who, just when I say, well, I said, hey, I don't care if I don't get a diploma. Because in my head, being an artist is not a piece of paper. I know what I'm going to try to do is going to be bigger than any paper, so it don't matter. But of course, in the world as it is, if you do 3 years or 4 years of school and you have a Bachelor of Arts, you get a Master's, the piece of paper does serve you well. In the end, I got a piece of paper, it serves me well because I lecture at the university. It wouldn't have been possible without that same piece of paper. So there's a balance. Yet I was willing to be at that school without getting a diploma for 3 years, just to learn to be an artist, because I was so thrilled to just be there. So I was a little bit older than most of the other students. I was going by that time 2021. Those students are coming straight up from the like 6th form, just like the elite program here. Most of them coming like 18. So after 6th form, 17, 18, they come to the school. So I was already quite determined, and honestly, it's good to think back at those beginnings because, like I'm saying, that is still who I am today, in a sense. Through, many, I would say, a few decades of, doing different things, changing course a lot, Like I said, I can't show you all how radical my course has been, because it's been pretty radical. And people like Tessa who knew me for a long time know, how much different things that I've done. And I've never done them. I've done them really from some kind of instinct, It's just something that says, go for this. Sometimes I say frustrate myself, like why do you move around so much? Why do you take these? And it is just part of me. I know there's something about our makeup here. I take on so much information. The music that I listen to has always been so varied, and I'm so curious about things that I had to find a way to speak about that once I would sell myself short. It wouldn't be the chain you imagine in your head. For me, I don't want anybody else. It wouldn't be that. So I had to take the long road and make sure that I could take all these influences, all these different experiences and craft them into something. And if it took me my entire life, that's what I was willing to do. And if you look at the work, and what would be interesting is that going forward, things are moving forward in an interesting way with my own career now. And I have people who represent me now, and I'm finally starting to sell paintings and whatnot, and I don't have to worry about getting kicked out of the studio as much as I did, even a couple of years ago. But I was willing to do whatever. Anyway, it was a journey that was already set and that I was not changing course, you know. And in a kind of way, maybe it's good to have somebody like my father around to look at, because, you know, Lovelace never had money, and it was never his thing. You know, he loved that money, but he loves that money because it takes away some things, right? Some things that you can, I mean, money is really just so that you don't have to think about certain things, really. But what I can say is that I think his work and what his ethos was like, this is my work, this is what I have to offer to the world. And if it is whatever the shape of my life, this is what I'm going to be doing, you know? I'm going to try and I think that becomes your offering to the world, you know? And I think you get graces because of it, you know? I really believe that, you know? I believe in energy and stuff a lot, but I don't want to get too heavy in talk. You know, we can talk about all of those things, but energy is important. You know, energy is energy, like what you put in, what the energy you put it out, and it has a return. You know, it has a way that it's teaching you and it's connecting you to some kind of path, you know, and some kind of activity which you are engaged in. So I really believe in that, and I think somehow, you know, through the ups and downs, I didn't have much ups and downs in my life, you know, in terms of my own growth, in terms of doubting myself, you know, periods. But through like a lot of darker times, I always wrote. You know, that's the one thing that has always seen me and always get back. And, you know, I remember there's a little anecdote that is good to know about me as well, that somewhere earlier on, I remember which studio I was in. I mean, I had little studios. I worked in the corner of the living room wherever I could. I went back by my mom later on, you know, until that didn't work out. So I moved studios a lot. But I remember there was one studio I was in, and somehow, you know, money has always been tight. And even being frugal with money still becomes tight. And I remember, like, I was running short of materials. I always like to have a backup of materials, you know, stuff I can do, because, and then it was the only time, and literally it was the first and the last time in my life that I ran out of materials. I thought, I was like, I have paints, what do you have? Like, and I got so depressed. I was like, no, this is like, on top of everything, if I can't make something, I can't do that. And that moment I said, that will never happen to me. So, you know, if I had not one line 2 weekends to make sure that I have paints, so be it. That's a sacrifice, I'm saying, you know. That's not going to happen again. It never happened again. But I remember what I did feel. Because I always feel like anything that you're confronted with, if you're creative and you're making something, there's something about that frees you and gives you a sense of purpose. Something grounds you, you know, when that happens. And I think I am definitely, like, I can testify to that. So you know, these are the defining things, I think, at the beginning, which I wanted to just share with you all, because, you know, sometimes people don't know that part of the story, you know. And what would be interesting, what was saying is that what would be interesting now is to look back on my book, and I'm actually looking forward to looking back in terms of, because I have bodies of work that I've created over the years, you know, that, I mean, people have always been supportive and cool here, but there are some things that, you know, our collectors, it was just too much to deal with, you know. Even it was hard for even me to deal with. So I couldn't, you know, I might sell one piece from a show, and, you know, some people have those pieces now which are still very esoteric and strange in some ways, but yet, with time now, I can see how it makes more sense, you know. Like, at that time, I couldn't see where this is going, you know. I started working with my body, working with photography, taking these pictures of these different movements, these little actions, like I like to call them. And I started to, you know, I would make a painting, then I would have the photographs, I would embed them in this resin, and then I would sew these things all like a little sequence. There would be different things. There would be me cutting bush, there would be me kissing somebody, there would be me, you know, doing a headstand, like these different activities, I think, like some kind of way to reflect my identity as a kind of free identity that's right in Trinidad, but that's completely its own thing, you know? And that was probably what I've been doing through my life in terms of the art that I've been making, you know? I mean, the last 7 years, 8 years, let me say decade, I've started to back towards more iconography that is more directly Caribbean. I didn't think I could paint the Caribbean very good earlier on. You know, I always say that I avoid painting things like coconuts and trees and things because it was too obvious, like, and too cliched, and I couldn't do it good enough. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it super good, super fresh. The thing is, I mean, you think of Cesar, these guys were painting apples and all this stuff, and we look at them as the grand innovators in modern art, right? Modern art, not just classical art, in modern, like, contemporary art even. And yet, you know, I was struggling to, like, you know, like, come to terms with painting things that were directly Caribbean. I think I needed to learn how to do it, you know, and I needed to understand the subject. I think I always understood the subject, you know, I understood being Trinidadian. Being a Trinidadian, they see things, you know, there's a way we just do things, our movement, the language, the voice is very important and interesting as well. But I couldn't capture it yet. So I had to find other ways to speak about different things and different layers of my identity, rather than going to those obviously Caribbean symbols of a Caribbean identity. And that's what I did for many years. I shied away from it until I started to, you know, re-engage with painting on a different level again. And I had started very much with, you know, the symmetry, this kind of gestural, I would say, expressionism. I used the paint with a lot of painting knife. And I would just put the paint on and straight from the thing. I painted a lot of, you know, in Martinique, I painted a whole series of stray dogs, you know, which obviously me coming to Martinique, being alone, you know, it was just a very powerful, emotionally, and just the detachment of Trinidad, not being able to speak the language at that time. I saw a dog. The first 2 days I was there, I saw a dog. It was this female dog, and the dog was hurt, and it was like dying, literally. And I don't know, when you're at that age, you know, and you fixate on something, you're like, it's just like the world, you know. I remember sketching it, and that turned into a whole series of these people paintings, you know. So I painted all these street dogs, and, you know. When I came back to Trinidad, actually, in 91, after the first year, I ended up getting a solo exhibition with Aquarella at that time with Jeffrey, you know, which was kind of incredible for somebody still in school, you know. So I was like, wow. Of course, things went a lot harder after that. And after that, I started with Promise, and I went, and then it kind of came back, you know. But it was all because I was making the choices I wanted to make, and I was not. I remember people always telling me at some point, you know, earlier on, you know, Che, why you don't make paintings and people could buy him thinking he's a charismatic fellow. You know, I was wondering, why you know, and I'm like, I can't do it, you know, I just don't know how to do it, I don't know. I mean, because my happiness and my feeling about who I am is that's foremost. I can't give nothing if I can't be comfortable with myself or what I'm doing, even if it's like, you know, really strange or really like nobody can understand it, even I didn't understand it. I mean, of course I understood it, but it was not understanding, you know, and I was making this distinction in a conversation with somebody the other day. I was like, it's an important distinction to make, and it's something that I actually hold to now. Now I kind of see it a little clearer. The idea of understanding and feeling, you know, it's one thing to understand, it's another thing to feel. Like, I don't need to understand everything, but what I need to do is feel. If I'm feeling, I'm alive, you know? And you know, so when you dance, for example, or you do something, you don't understand, you don't want to necessarily break down an anthropologist might have an idea of like, where does that come from? Like, I'm less interested in that, I'm more interested in actually just feeling myself in dance. And what does that do? So maybe I was doing these things and maybe I was feeling something in them, you know, without necessarily having to break down and understand like why everything. And of course, in art and in the world of art, people are asked to speak about their work and their ideas around the world. And there are ideas and things that, you know, you can break down around the world. But I think in terms of the practice, it really has been more how am I feeling it, you know? So when I have come around, you know, and some of you might know my more recent work, to painting more Caribbean things, I think I was ready for it. You know, I feel like I like my painting technique, just things that I gathered along the way, equipped me with the ability now to really treat this subject with a new fervor and a way to do something new with it. I remember when I moved down into the studio in married, which is now 7 years. One of the first things that I went to the bank is I remember I come from Ontario, and I had been working in Forest Spain like pretty much my entire like my longest studio before that was CCA 7, Fernandez Compound Lavatel. And I mean, that was a great experience because there were other artists there. We had the Studio Film Club. There's a lot of painters around and other artists. So it was a special time. But at the end, I was over. I was over it. I needed something new. And then kind of going to Shagaran was a kind of homecoming to nature. And it coincided with I never worked with a ton of color. I always stay away from too much color. Most of my things were kind of relatively toned down, monochromatic. Not monochromatic, but browns, yellows, deeper colors, some blue. I never used orange and these kind of colors and bright yellows and like reds. Hardly, go 3 years and not see it. And then I just came to a point when I got down there, I just went and got a plant and I put it in the center. I just made a drawing of the plant. I said, this is starting now. And there were a lot of coconut trees around there. I picked up some coconuts and I said, well, it was still life with the coconuts. And I will not forget that first still life. The minute I did that still life, I felt something like moving there, like, whoa, this is something fresh. This is something new again. I could feel it, like I had gone, like that, those coconuts was the turning point. And actually I still know the painting is, I don't have it anymore, but I know the painting when it happened. And anybody, not only that, I felt it, but anybody who saw it, they immediately would go like across the board. It could be somebody who's just an enthusiast to like people who were like more established in the art world. Looked at those things and they immediately felt something. And I think that was another spurt of another growth spurt, if you would, in my practice, which has led me to what is happening now with the career. But the subjects have merged, meaning that the work with the body, movement, I paint the male nude a lot. I paint the female body a lot, but I paint the male a lot. I got a series of male nudes in movement at Medulla in 2011. And that was also an important body because I was able to take that information and how I was making those and transpose it now into play pan or somebody dancing jab or anything that I'm doing, those experiences which I kind of worked out with my own body and worked these things out by actually acting them out, and that was something, another very important facet of my work that I needed to find and I think I'm starting to find, which is that I want to find a way to paint the Caribbean subject that is not like traditionally we have this distance from it, So you're looking at somebody doing something and the painter literally is there and the subject is there, How much is the painter in the subject? These are questions, as I said, I ask myself. So if you notice in my paintings, I try to go close to things. And that has come from me actually being the thing that I'm painting, and then I started to think, this is Trinidad. We are masters of masquerade and of play and of changing personas. This is one of the things that is fundamental. How can I bring that into my painting? How can I bring that to strengthen my, approach to a subject? And when I started to actually perform things, and I have a performative streak in me for those of you who know me well, dancing and moving, I like to play Blue Devil Up on the Hill. And when I get into something, it's like, I get into it, and it's always been with me. But I said, how can I get that into my painting more? Because my paintings always, I had to go through a process to bring that closer. Part of that was, both in terms of the spiritual side, or what we call the energy side, but also the practical side, to be able to study the body in movement, If I took a sequence of images or I did a video of myself doing something, I could study what I was doing afterwards, and I could try to take that and bring it into a painting, somehow or the other. And just the process of doing it, the mind and the artistic transfer between you and what you're doing is so mysterious that just exposing yourself to something brings something. It could be just a line. Sometimes I'm looking for just a single line, and that line is the all. It's not because my paintings are not, hyper-realistic, nor are they abstract, So I don't know what it is I'm really looking for necessarily until I see it, And sometimes it's just a line. Sometimes I might go through all kind of things to see somebody you just get a line that connects the head, and I just put a line like that, and sometimes, boom, it's right there. And if you see it, and it's there, you know. But what I'm saying is that it's that layering of information, tons of information that we have. And we are, you know, as a post-colonial society, you know, the influences are so vast for us, you know. I grew up listening to, you know, from the reggae and the calypsos and you know, when I started to discover things like Black Sabbath and rock and new wave music, and the other night I finished up into listening to Depeche Mode, amazing. And it's just like, and it's not like I'm listening to it as a curiosity, I'm really totally invested in all of this stuff, you know, like 100%. And it's moving me, it's inside of me, and you know, I think it's just a lot of information, and when you have that much information going on, and that amount of influences in terms of how you've been shaped as an artist, you can't help but want that to seep into your own, you know? You don't want to leave it out, you want it to get in. If you have an objective, that's the objective. So, I will close off shortly, so you're going to ask a couple of questions if you have, but I hope that what I'm saying kind of gives you an idea of how I approach it. It's like the person and the experience is actually seeking a way to channel all of those things into their own, you know, and I kind of don't sit still until I can get that in there. And I feel that that's when you create something new, you know. So if we are going to create, you know, I know that there's some amazing, and the other thing that I have to mention is that I started to look much more closely at our own traditional painting here. You know, there was a moment when you're young, you know, like you kind of, you know, you turn your back, you want to look outside, you know, so, but you ain't turn your back, but for a moment you have to learn something when you're young. You have to test what you know. You have to also not take things for granted that this is who I am. You have to test what that is, what it means. So sometimes that means, like, you know, maybe not being so influenced by something that's right in front of you, like, you know, Leroy Clark, you know, God bless his heart. You know, childhood friend always encouraged me, always close to me, and yet there's a point where you already know, well, this man is not a disciple, you know? I'm not a disciple, like I'm my own person, and you know, it was showing the painting. And like, I tried to make a couple of, actually I was influenced by Leroy, and I think I'm still influenced by him more and more. But I found my way to digest, you know, his geometries. What I loved about him was the big geometries, you know, and that I could move into that area, you know, and you know, I know he'll be proud of, you know, how I think I'm starting to digest that, because it took a long time. Because once, you know, I couldn't just like mirror what he was doing, you know, as a starting point. I always start with a kind of simplest point of view, which is like, I am just trying to make a picture of something, you know, like somebody sitting down or something on a table. It's always something like of reality, but then how do you find magic and like a new world in that? That is what the journey is. So I'm not a person that's trying to get too fancy with concepts, you know. There are things that get a lot of concepts, but like this, but it was beautiful work, you know, and it was really him, you know, which is the important thing. It was him, and you know, I guess we all have to start from a point, and then start to mind in different directions. It's okay. Let me add this. Let me try this. So, but you know, he always was supportive. You know, I remember Bosco early on coming in, me and Eddie going. You know, when I came back from art school, I sought those artists out. I sought out Chris Mosier and Eddie, and I've always been proactive about learning. That's the next thing. Proactive about learning. I don't sit down and wait for things. If I have somebody I have to go and see, and I would say, somebody blank, no, they're blank. Generally people in blank. They go like, hey, this is, you know, over-enthusiastic, you know, and then I would make my shifts. I would make my shifts as I felt it, you know, away from things, just as I was drawn to something, I feel shifts and I will shift away, you know. Over the last several years, I'm enjoying, you know, lecturing and seeing what young people do, and just like the raw talent, and sometimes not even knowing what they're doing, because I kind of realize that's a nice place to be. That's what we try to, you know, as a more developed artist, you try to kind of forget it all. to let the experience feel fresh every time. I always say, like, I like to make a painting like from scratch every time. I try, anytime it's getting too methodical, I do something. Like some of the paintings I start with a drawing, some of them I start with splashing, some of them I start with, like, because I make these things on these boards and I put them together. I start with them on separate boards, just playing around with that. And that keeps it like playing and it keeps it fresh. Everyone is starting differently. When I'm going to paint the body, all the bodies look different. Some of them are a little tighter and more realistic. Some of them could just totally be like, barely there. And I think, to see the beauty in that full range of the possibilities in that full range of treatments, you have to stay agile. You can't let the mind just start to okay, well, this is what I did yesterday, let me just go on with that, You have to stop. And that is the beautiful thing about, I find, I'm so taken by it. It's a very, I know many of you all here are painters and work in the same field and I am. You all know how difficult it is, one, but two, how mysterious it is, like when you get something revealed to you, these little things, it's like a language you are forming, and it makes sense. And not only does it make sense to you, somebody else that you can go and paint, and they will say, yeah, it's a very mysterious language, and I think, the things that I'm trying to show about my personality and where I'm coming from really is what I'm trying to get to feed the work, So now I'm painting coconuts and, trees and people climbing and people dancing and, all of those experiences of the things I've done before is coming into it now, So now it's starting to make sense to me, I'll make one more quick technical note about what the work looks like now and what it would look like, and I don't know if many of you all would know this body of work, but in the mid-90s, actually, good little story, I'm going to give 1 or 2 minutes. When I was in the 90s, I was working, I came back from school, I was working with Eddie, like I said. And during that first 3 years out of art school, I'm not lying to you, I made not a single thing that I was satisfied. I didn't know how I was doing it. Like I said, Eddie, I can't remember, Eddie was probably paying you right, and it was Eddie family, so it was probably okay. But I didn't know, because I could not make a painting that I was satisfied with. I have a few examples still. I had brought all the things, all my various experimentations from marketing, I shipped them here. I don't believe in throwing away anything. So I feel once it's a transfer of energy, so once you're working on something, it can be a scribble. It can be ugly, it can be horrible, it could be like, what is a piece of paper that has something in it. And I believe in that. I believe in all my paintings are, many of those paintings you see now, I've been working on for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or whatever. Put away, they fail, bring them back out, and try something, and put them back over, and those is the best paintings for me. And because when people see them, they're like, no, you can tell there's a kind of energy painting, there are some quicker paintings that also have a freshness to it, but those kind of paintings where you kind of like your energy has been soaking into that for years, there's no substitute for it, But I remember, like with that period, what broke was I was trying to make these paintings, and then I got so frustrated after 2 years. I literally started to cut up my paintings, and I started to take them on the canvas and on the stretcher. I said, take the canvases on the stretcher. I started to cut things up, and it was like kind of my rage and thing. I was just starting to play, and I started to cut up a few things, and then this is so frustrating. 2 years I did that painting, and I did something. I got some thread and needles. And I started to sew some things back together. And that became a big body of work in the 90s. And what I'm looking forward to the day that I can show you, I have most of the paintings still. I don't have all, some have been damaged, but I still have that body. And when you think of the work that I'm doing today with the panels, because I afterwards realized, shit, this is the same gesture. These parts sewn together, making this kind of tapestry. And then I sewed up a colorful band around the edge and hung off of a piece of wood, like the top like that, right? And there was objects on it. So it had pieces of painting, and we sewed little toy stuff on it. It was just a mind-boggling body work for me because it was cathartic. I got all this stuff out onto these things, and I was able to condense it into these pieces that hung like tapestries. And I'm thinking now, and I started to think, over the last years, look at how that work has come into the panels, which in a sense has become my method and what I'm becoming known for, So anyway, I wanted to close with that. But yes, that's a little bit of my...
Well, I'm asking one question, Jay, which is, I see you on Facebook a lot, okay? And
right.
I usually give you a heart or a
yeah.
But what amazes me is the output, okay? I just don't know how the hell you find the time to do everything you do.
No, people do say that about me, like you make a lot of work, and I see that that's all I do, really. I've been working full time as an artist. I've done other things to make money. I started teaching actually as a way, of course, being close to the arts, and still, and actually I'm really happy. I'm going to keep that position because I like that contact as well. It's not even about any money anymore, but I've done things. I've been a surf instructor, for many years, teaching people to surf because that's my next, I'm split down the half surfer artist, you all know that. So I'm really serious in surfing is like a art form for me, which is like a spiritual thing for me. So yeah, so surfing, I can teach surfing. So I've done many things, but what I feel though is that whenever I do something, I do a job or do something, I always return back to the studio. I always live close to my work as well. I didn't live in Fernandez. I couldn't sleep in that place. That place was haunted. I tried sleeping there. I'm like, okay, this is the last time I'm sleeping up here. I don't know. I would work until 3 hours in the morning, jump in the car and go home, which was thankfully cascade over the hill there. But I couldn't sleep there. But I like being close. Now I wasn't necessarily living in Chagra myself because the place was quite dilapidated. I transformed it into a studio. But since COVID, we couldn't move around so much. I really, just around the time I started to sell a couple other paintings. I had a little extra money, so I set up, fixed it up a little bit. I am most comfortable living close to the wood, very, very quickly. I can wake up literally and just get. So I think that is what happens, is that, sometimes I've had good moments of painting, and I'm not a big phone host, but I might go on a phone call with somebody, and this could just be somebody where I feel like talking to them, and they feel like talking to me. And I've been talking, and I've been painting while I'm talking, and unconsciously, and then I say, it's not bad. That's not what I was even thinking about what I was doing, And actually, that's what happens when you're really immersed in painting. You are not actually conscious you're making. Actually, that's the best time in painting. You don't even know how it is you do that, but it just happened. But you were doing it. You were doing it from some other kind of space in your mind, where you're going through emotions, you're feeling it, you're making decisions, you're scripting it, and I'm I paint and I spray and I wash and I do tons of different things on paintings. Paintings are very physical in terms of how I treat them. But to come back to your question, time, I spend all my time in that. And through the years, through the ups and downs, I've always managed to get back in the studio and try something. And I don't know, maybe, some things take real long. And what I do, there are many times I say, nice and done. Photographic, all kind of thing. That's something right now. And then I look at it and I say, then I go back into it, So when you're, and I think you have to find what works for you. With students, I always say to them, I say, I can't tell everybody to work the way I work because you have to also find the way that works for you. Some people might be like, no, Jay, I put up one canvas and I work on this canvas alone, right? I would know this structure. And I'll be like, great, I cannot work like that. I have to have, if I put one, I get trapped. If I have one, I'm like, oh my God, this is hard. Because I feel like there's so much pressure doing something, Whereas if I come in and make 2 marks, and I like that, I want to sit down and look at it for a long time. And then when I do that, I say, but it's still a waste of time. Let me put some marks somewhere else, Because, we do have to think of time, and I try to be relatively serious about time. Like, spend some time in the studio with it. Even if you're not feeling it, just work on something, and those things turn into something. They always turn into something. So I think that is the key, is is that I'm always like putting my hand in something. So there's a lot of things on the go that I've started that are unfinished, that are nothing really until they kind of start to climb the ladder into my consciousness and they become something. But I love that. That is exactly the process that I'm looking for. I don't want to have this absolute clear idea of painting. I have ideas, I have a little notebook, I take little notes in, but that little drawing could be like a little scribble about this big with a little notation underneath it of what it is. Like a man, dying down in the water or something, and I have a little idea of what angle I'm like I say my drawing is not very, you look at my drawing like, okay, you can understand that. But I have, it's a notation. And then I will get more information, I will work with the body in more specific ways to find exactly what I'm looking for. But I like that process that is not so clear. So it gives me a chance to invent, to put more information on it, So I'm just starting a ton of things. And that's like still how the studio is. And then over the years, you find they start finishing, And the time is like, thankfully, that's what I'm doing. Now, during COVID was a breakthrough for me. Actually, I made my breakthrough in the art scene internationally during COVID. Everybody was like, what COVID? I always say, like, I'm buckle for hard times because COVID, nobody's saying painting, or make a little sale, And that is exactly when everything happened. Because I think I had this uninterrupted time. I love that absolutely. Just like day in and day out. You remember how it was with COVID? It was like everything was shut down. So it's like a day after a week after it was just quiet. Imagine if you just, you could get lonely or you could get whatever, but you were just there to be up to your devices, your own devices. And I just really, I finished a lot of things that I had started. It wasn't like I started things too, but there were things I needed focus and clarity for, and a little time to not break the sessions up. You break a session up, you get to that point, okay, it wasn't. That's like something you said, right? I work at night a lot, so when I'm working, I have, some of the best set colors and stuff start to happen late in the night because you're mixing things that you didn't know how to mix that color, how to even get out that color. Because it was a gray, then you start to add pink tip, and then it becomes a pinkish gray, and then you can add orange to that, you add orange to pink, and gray, you get all kind of you get that kind of shade of like a light brownish pink. So these are colors that start to happen in the process, so you have to carry that through, I don't waste paint, like if I have paint there and I finish, like I don't see a place to put it, that paint, I find somewhere to put it, because that's like home to me. Not only physically, like in terms of, I'm one of those people going back to that memory of not having materials, like that's still ingrained. It's like there's no waste in that studio. But the good thing is that beyond the practical side of it, it's just that everything has value once you're touching it and you're in exchange with that material. Because I believe in energy. Everything there has energy. So you gotta put it somewhere because it's gonna start a new journey.
When you talk about the materials you are painting with, it's not just acrylics, you said pigments.
Yeah. So the only my book on this board, which has been actually I was just doing a Zoom visit with a writer or somebody in the arts the other day, and they were, interestingly enough, they were saying to me that he was saying that people don't pay enough attention to what I'm working with. Like people see the image, graphic image, but I think a big part of my painting is what I'm working with and what it looks like a physical object. It's like a sculptural object almost, because I started with this board, which are these boards. The story of these boards is that they decided to come and bring them into Trinidad more or less for binding. So the government brought them down and would have suppliers at these in towns where I used to get a lot of them. And it's actually a really good quality board. The board is relatively acid free, right? So it doesn't, you don't want to do stuff that's going to be destroyed. In 2 years, they see the colors changing. I have stuff I've been looking at for 15 years. The colors impeccable still, even with only one prime ones, amazing. So I'm like, this thing is really good. And then not only that, it's a tough surface. Even if I'm working on a thin, I used to buy them in different thicknesses. And the way they're made is like a compressed paper pulp. So it comes in like a thick board that's very robust. You know, if it gets wet, it's no good, obviously. It would swell, and then it would contract once it's dry. But once it's dry, like I had flood in the studio, paintings have gotten wet. The thing contracts, Jesus Christ. Take them out, dry them out, it contracts, and then the painting still never broke. The skin of that never broke. And I was like, wow. So that thing is super tough. I think it as tough as canvas, it's not tough. And I got it ground, you know. So I used that, and I've been using that for many years. I started making these paintings. I was still working on oils. I worked with them on oils. I did the whole series that I did in Medulla. Those were all oil paintings, very sketchy, kind of drawing like, not a movement. Around that time, I started to, I always had respiratory issues, and I started to really have an aversion to the turpentine and stuff, you know. I couldn't take the smell of it anymore, like it really got too bad, you know. And I'm real sensitive in the chest. So I was like, wow, I never like acrylics. Because I find acrylics too, too shiny. The thing is that the technology has changed, yeah? Because acrylics now are a lot, like when I look at the acrylics, I used to be exposed to, you could have been like more cheap acrylics too, or whatever. I just didn't like looking at it, you know? And I started, you know, transitioning. I said, I have to try acrylics, you know, because I mean, there's no more difference in painting. I can't work with this stuff anymore. And just around that time, I started experimenting with pigment, with dry pigment, which is, the pigment is literally where you make all the paints from. So you start with that pigment, you can either mix it with turpentine and linseed oil to become oil paint, or you mix it with polymer binder and it becomes acrylic, right? So what I started doing was mixing that with mixing that pigment with the acrylics as a way, one, to make it a little bit more matte, because you know it's a chalky thing and it's coming into it. The acrylic already has a binder, so it binds it. And lo and behold, I came upon a whole new technique that I had not known about. And if you look at my paintings now, people think it's on paint actually. They look at it because it's not shiny, but it's robust. I can make it robust. And you know, I've been experimenting with a few different things like mediums and stuff that you could really do things with it, you know. And what was cool is that I was able to make the color stronger by adding that, you know. And that was the thing I was looking for. One of the things that was not cool about the acrylics for me was I wasn't getting the color. You know, you put on a yellow and then you find it gets more transparent. It's like, what do you have the yellow is? I want the yellow, yeah. And then you layer it, and then like, so I started to add that. And then if I added like yellow, if I had a weak yellow acrylic, and I pretty much use the same base Rowley Owens on that is available there. That's like a great base because actually when you look, a good way to look at paint is like when you look at how it dries and how strong it is. That paint is strong, and I think the best color all the time. Some of the colors are good, and some of the colors are like the yellows are always a little weak. I find in that brand. But you put yellow pigment and then add white pigment to that. It's going to make it more, it gets a lot more radiant, you know. So I started to do that, and then combine with that board. You know, again, that board is a kind of magic board for me because the way that it saturates the paint is quite particular, and it's robust enough to take scraping and cut into boards and peel things off. Like you could peel the skin off of that board. You could cut like an area, and if you cut the area, like I have some paintings. People would have seen them in some of the things I have done here at Loft that showed in terms of the new bodies of wood. I showed twice in 2018, 2019. And some of those paintings had cuts. Cut an area and peel it off. I have some new paintings where I peel it off and it's like build up. These dancers, which I'm really happy about. I've been working on it for a long time, about 2 years now. And you know, these people when it gets so built up and thick, it almost gets too heavy. So I find some real interesting movements and I start cutting it and peel it off and reveal the layer under it, which is now like a cream board layer. And I use that in juxtaposition with the built up areas, which I love in paintings. You see like hair built up and they have nothing, like absolutely nothing there. I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? There's nothing better than that for me, you know? So the material, you know, I'm glad you asked that because the material in my work is a really big part of what the work is and how it speaks, I think. And you know, when I mount them up now, I go and I take them, I add them, and it's like becoming master, counter for my work, you know. ways to like, because how do you get this thing to be like a painting and you know, because I just pick them up. Like that when it bends and it does all kind of things when it's in the studio. So you have to get this thing. My vision was always to be so why don't you just cut it? People always are like, keep it up and it'll be nice and I can do this and I said I want it flat like a painting, like and like you know, like a real painting. I don't want anything like just cut it up like that. I mean I don't do a studio visit like that. But when it's finished I want it to be like flat and canvas. And we started experimenting with using like wooden backing, you know, so we use like a whole structure behind the walls. And then those paintings, interestingly, I can take them apart into 4 parts, shipping them. So they come into like the walls are 25 by 30, so like this by that. Alright, of course when I put 4 together it becomes a painting that's 60 by 50, which is the size of the book that I do. And I break it down into the 4 parts and wrap it up, put it in a box from my horizons there, and then there's a wooden structure that you screw to the back and holds that in place. So that has become the standard of how I make paintings. And you know, so much about it has really just happened through like evolving like that. I didn't just wake up with that. Because some of them I try all kinds of things, sticking it on the ply, real disaster. You know, because then you have this huge thing you can't do nothing with, and it's big, heavy. Yeah, we went through some things, but we found a method that I think really works. And the good thing about that in terms of conservation, if there's something in the future that happens to one panel, you can take that panel off and treat it, do something with it. The whole painting is not like damaged, and you can deal with that and then put it back on. You know? So it you know, took me my entire life, and I found a material that I like.
Appreciated by others too.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, you know, and people use it too. I mean, I always encourage students to use it. And some people like it, some people don't like it as much, but I think it's good to you know, as an artist, to try out different surfaces. You know, it's one thing to work on canvas, which has the texture, but you know, a flat surface. I mean, look at, you know, we just look at some of the great masters we've had here. You know, look at Bosco. Bosco known for painting on hard. Actually, I would not be able to spell hard bodies today because that is too hard and too resistant for me. It needs to get a little bit more absorbent for me. Like I really enjoy like try that like one day I said I see last time. But he has made many paintings on hardboard, you know, that seem to be, you know, but those things are difficult. And if you don't prime them well, they get damaged over time, they will lift, you know, because it's, remember, that's a very smooth surface. When you paint it smooth side, somebody painted it rough side, remember that hardboard has a rough side, which has textures in it. But I guess if you prime it, it could work. But, you know, I still think it's good for artists to work with things where there's a lot of resistance, where you can push hard on it. And then, of course, a canvas sometimes, depending on how, even if you put a canvas very taut, it still always has air, you know? So it's a different type of painting in a way. And these are things that I think is really good as a painter to experience for yourself, because then you can know, you know, what's working for you. And in my case, you know, because I'm very physical with paintings sometimes, I mean, I'm trying to bring the tender side out a little bit more. I'll be like, you know? But I need to have physicality in the work too, you know? And then it can also show the more gentle marks as well, which is what you want. You know, the combination of that intense kind of scraping and, you know, washing, even though washing actually is a little softer, with, you know, marks that hold when you make them, is really what makes the painting come alive for me. Yeah, so the material is paramount, and it's really important to experiment with it, you know.